All right. I would like to invite you all to the Sister Science podcast today with Simmi Latulippe. And Simmi and I have known each other probably mostly through mutual friends, but share a love of Ayurveda. And Simi's grown up sort of in an Ayurvedic family with an Ayurveda way of life, but is also a yoga therapist and a yoga teacher and is a counselor at Canmore Counseling. So, we are coming to this call today to talk about Ayurveda through the perspective of menopause because it's a big hot topic in, I don't know if it's still a hot topic in your life. It's a hot topic in my life and in my community and among my friend group. So it'll be great to have this conversation. So thanks for being here. And I'm going to throw you my first question, which is tell us what you do.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jill, for inviting me. I really appreciate the invitation. So, sharing my story, as Jill had said, I'm an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner, and I have four generations of Ayurvedic doctors in my family. So, Ayurveda was in my, or and still is, of course, in my DNA. When I first graduated university, I went into the corporate world. So I worked for Sumitomo Bank of Japan. So you can imagine a very masculine role, a very masculine place to work, very finance and money oriented, not much in terms of caring for people. In the birth of my daughter, so in the year 2000, the universe spoke to me. And the universe said, Stimmy, you can continue on this path, but something's going to happen in terms of health. Or you can go and find your female essence because this masculine world is no longer serving you. So at that time, I knew I had to go back to my roots. And my roots was Ayurvedic medicine. So I had to go back and qualify at school, get my license, and then start a practice. But that was me listening to the signs of the universe when it spoke to me and saying, okay, I need to take a different path. And I know innately if I didn't follow the innate path, because I could easily have said to myself, oh my God, the money's too good working in finance. Why would I change? Right. And I know I would have burnt out. I would have had, maybe chronic fatigue, adrenal burnout, whatever it may be. But I was that hamster on a wheel that was going and going and going. And if I didn't jump off that wheel and take a different path and a different journey, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that was my wake up call. That was my story where the universe really spoke to me loudly and said, let go of that male masculine energy and come to find that female essence, that female energy, which is very different. As we know, the yin energy is very different than the yang energy of human nature. So that
Can
was
you
my path.
Can you speak just a tiny bit more to that masculine feminine in that? I think of Ayurveda sometimes and it's very like it can be very prescriptive. It is very science-based. It's very it's got a lot of etymology that has that masculine structure to it. I mean, it has broken down the cycles of the day. It has ascribed qualities to the different doshas. It's made as much as it can bring into structure, it has. And but what is it about Ayurveda that still keeps the container for the feminine to flow in that's unlike something that modern medicine has been able to do?
Well, I think Ayurveda really teaches us to listen to the whispers of our body so that the body never has to scream. In
Yeah.
North America, we're programmed to wait for the scream and then we react. But if you listen to the whispers and you tweak along the way what the body, mind, and soul are asking for, the body never has to scream. And I think that's the biggest difference between any holistic medicine practice, as Ayurvedic specifically, and then the allopathic, the traditional medicine that we're all used to. And also, how a difference in any holistic practice in Ayurveda is that we dig deep into the root cause of a symptom. And that's where the healing comes from. So once you dig deep and you dig and find the root cause and you begin healing from there, the healing will last so much longer. It'll be more permanent because you've done the work.
Yeah.
Whereas in allopathic medicine, traditional North American medicine, they don't look for a root cause. They treat the symptom and they usually put a band-aid, so maybe a prescription, which is usually the case, on the symptom. But as soon as you come off that prescription, then the symptom comes back because you haven't really dealt with it. You haven't found what that root cause is and you haven't dealt with the root. So I think
Yeah.
that's the huge difference. One is to listening to the whispers of the body, and then two, to dig deep into what is that root cause. And I think that's where Ayurveda is really specifically, especially when you do pulse analysis. The pulse
Mhm.
can tell you everything. But again, people will, allopathic doctors, when they do pulse, they look at the heartbeat. That's it. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you know, Jill, when we look at the pulse, we look at all the different layers of a human being. Like
Yeah.
that is magic. The information you can get from doing the pulse, whether it be even face, doing Ayurvedic face analysis, and you see the organs all on the face, and then same with the tongue. Like all three together work so synergistically that they can tell you even before something starts to happen in the body that what is starting to brew and where that work may have to be done, and then that symptom doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to expose itself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so when we start to look at root causes, when we start to go down all the way to the root, I think that if we shift to the idea of menopause, the um, I feel like with like as women going through it, we've never been told anything. There's just this word menopause, and we're starting to go through it and learn all the intricacies of what it means. And there's a lot of things out there that right now that are helping us with symptoms. Now, root cause wise, can you talk about what's happening in the body or what's going on at this stage of life for us,
Of
for
course.
women?
Well, firstly, even before that, women here in North America aren't taught how to prepare body, mind, and soul for perimenopause. Where through Ayurvedic medicine, women are taught in their 30s that you should start preparing body, mind, and soul for the perimenopause journey. So, like most things in life, the better prepared we are, the better the results. So women prepare themselves for their wedding day. Women prepare themselves if they decide to give birth, but women don't know how to prepare for menopause. And I
Yeah.
think that's where one of my programs that I just created, it's brand new, it's only a few months old, because I think that was a missing link. So if women can prepare themselves for their journey of menopause before, so they know that their adrenals are working properly, they know that their liver is functioning properly, they won't get symptoms. They can't because the body's at the optimal health. And so you have almost a symptom free menopause and you just breeze through it. But in our society, women are blindsided by symptoms and they don't even know what's happening in their body. They just have these symptoms and then they go see their doctor and the doctor runs the test and say, "Oh, okay, you're starting menopause. Congratulations."
Hmm.
Right? So my first thing is, okay, women first have to prepare. And as you know with Ayurveda, you have to do the work. It's not a quick fix. But
Yeah.
again, women in our society are programmed for the quick fix. They want instant relief. I can't give you instant relief, but I can give you long-term relief,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the big thing. And women do, even all my programs, the two that I have, women have to do the work. And then they come out the other end feeling vitality. They feel like, yeah, they feel like themselves again. They feel like they can thrive and they know themselves. Like there's so many different layers, as body, mind, and soul in healing that are all addressed in my programs. Where in allopathic medicine, again, you just wait for the symptoms to happen, you get blindsided, and then you deal with it.
So, I mean, yeah, you and I are speaking the same language. So tell me about what you would talk about preparation. Tell me some things that we would do in preparation for this. Um, if we were to speak a sort of the dosha's language, Our adult stage of life, we are in this pitta zone, and pitta is fire and water, and the fire piece of us is like the heat, the drive, the ambition, the transformation, the ability to transform, the ability to create, and we shift into Vata season, which is air and ether. It's colder, it's drier, it's more mobile, it's harder. It has the fire is literally changing. It's dying in our bodies, and the fire is not as prominent. Is there the correlation I would see that Western medicine talks about is that our hormones are drying up. Like we're not as full of estrogen and testosterone and progesterone as we were before. How do you describe that transition?
Well, you're absolutely right. As we come into menopause, it's the Vata dosha that will begin the imbalance stage. So the first thing I would say for all women is to make sure they feel grounded. We
Mm,
all know also with the change of seasons, going from summer to fall is a natural transition where everyone, not only women, but everyone gets ungrounded. The mind starts to get really busy, and then it creates stories or drama. And then all of a sudden we get, we feel depressed, we feel anxious, we feel worried, all these things, and we can't turn off the mind. And then we lose the connection between mind and body. And
mm,
when that happens, that's when things start to go awry in all levels of mind, body, and soul. So the most important thing, the first thing I would say to anyone as they come into the menopausal journey, as they come into the transition from summer to fall, and even going into early winter, is to make sure they ground. And so we all have different practices that feed us for grounding, but grounding and rooting, either through pranayama, breath work, or meditation, or yoga, all that can help ground. And that's the first stage, to make sure you're deeply grounded, deeply rooted. And we all know Muladhara, the root chakra, is that place where it says, I feel safe, or I am safe, I am home, I am grounded. All those, magical affirmations that we can say to ourselves, that's where it starts.
yeah,
Grounding is huge. And then, of course, there's all the food that comes into grounding, right? There's also the herbs and the spices and the foods that also can help us ground. And so, those are all the little secrets, all those little, as you said, hacks that
yeah.
I share in my biohacking menopause, because that is the most important, is grounding. If your muladhara, if your root chakra isn't grounded, all the other chakras will be out of balance. So it starts with the foundation. So, like building a home, you have to have a solid foundation in order to build all the other layers of a house. So, if your number one root chakra isn't grounded, well, the number two, three, four, five, six, seven chakra will not be in balance.
Hmm. Beautiful. So that's step one.
That's step one.
Okay.
Yeah. And as we know, a lot of people live, from their head up. There's no connection to the bottom. There's no connection to the body. Because we're programmed, again, the mind is masculine. That's the yang, as we talked about masculine and feminine. The bottom half, the bottom, is the feminine. So if we have a disconnect between mind and body, because the mind is so much stronger and the mind is the one that's ruling the person, and there's no connection with the body, well, the first step is grounding.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so that if that is like sort of our preparatory step,
Yeah.
what's your recommendation when I mean, I have women in my life who are feeling the symptoms. I also want your I also have another question. Do you see in your community that women who are more Vata in their own constitution have more symptoms going through menopause than women, say, who are Kapha or even Pitta?
No, I wouldn't say that, because it's all about the imbalance. So you can be vata, but you can be a strong, balanced vata. So it might be the pitta or the kapha energy that comes into play for that person, because the vata is already so strong, which is great. But I would say a lot of times in menopause, As women, we give so much of ourselves to everybody. So, as caregivers, as mothers, as you're taking care of your parents, right? We give so much of ourselves to others that we forget to take back for ourselves. So, that's very kapha, right? The kapha energy where you just give and give and give, and then you get drained and you get depleted because you've given so much of yourself to everyone else and you've forgotten to take back for yourself that piece of self-care. I think a lot of kapha women almost feel guilty if they
Yeah.
take time for themselves. And society sometimes says it makes you feel guilty if you take time out for yourself. And that's where we have to change the dialogue, and we can't feel guilty of taking time for self care because usually menopause is that time where you're supposed to be selfish. You're
Mhm.
supposed to give back to yourself. And almost menopause is telling you you have to give back to yourself.
It-
Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get more blindsided with more symptoms. So, really, it is the time to, talk almost on lovingly talk to yourself and then listen to what your body wants. I always say you have to listen to the whispers of your body before your body has to scream. And again,
yeah.
we're always programmed to wait for the scream, but you don't have to wait for the scream. You can listen to the whispers. And then if the body says it needs time to rest, you have to honor that and give the body the time to rest, not to go hike up another mountain, not to go for a ski. Really take the time to rest.
Right. So regardless of constitution, then we're all going to go through this transition and have possibly symptoms, no symptoms, whatever it is. So this idea of grounding is connected to the idea of filling your own cup, of building your own. Is it the idea of we need to build our own ojas? That's a word that I use in my community all the time to like your own capacity, vitality, immunity. I think of it as your ability to hold the life you want.
Exactly. And we all know, so ojas or our life force is our vitality. And how do you feed your vitality or your life force or your ojas? Is by making sure it's nourished, by giving back to yourself. And I always like to include the best food I know to nourish your life force. Like in homeopathy, where like treats like, organ treats organ. So, having bone broth, for example, is a beautiful way to fill your life force up, to fill that bone marrow, which holds your life force. So, it's you're eating bone marrow to feed your own bone marrow to help increase vitality and life force. And we all know when parents or grandparents are in hospice and they can't eat or drink, what they serve them is bone marrow because that gives them the energy, that gives them a little bit of vitality and life force to continue till the next day.
What they should feed them.
What they should be. Well,
Okay.
hopefully they do.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about moving through transition, I guess. Because I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that if you are grounded and if your cup is full, you can actually move through this transition with grace and ease. And it's not something that's sort of complicated or that you have to be I yeah, it's just that I guess what we do see is that women come to it after the symptoms are already in screaming
That's right. And
state.
I think as well too, in our society, we're so much more stressed. And as we know, stress is a key indicator of the disease process. So, to deal with stress, to have that ability to actually slow down and to stop the going and the doing, which is what we are programmed to do. I think that all that helps so much so that you come through menopause without having a blindsided of symptoms. And I'm very lucky. I went through my menopause because I'm post-menopause now, and I went through menopause without any symptoms, like very little symptoms. But I knew what to do. And when something happened, I did the work to change it. Because for me, my first symptom that I had one of my only symptoms I had, because was a loss of sleep.
Mm.
But I have always, my whole life, been an amazing sleeper, always. So for me, all of a sudden to lose sleep was like, what is happening? But then I know I had to do the work to change. And a lot of that was stress. So reducing the stress, creating the sleep habits. Like we all know what to do. It's actually doing the work to make sure it happens so that we can go back to sleeping like a baby.
Mhm. So if your body's naturally changing its the hormone levels that it is creating and producing, what would Ayurveda say about going to get those topped up in the allopathic system? I
Right?
mean, I'm really curious because I do feel like there's a lot of new information that seems to be coming at us right now about hormone bioidentical hormone replacement and the importance of these hormones in our body. And my Ayurveda mind always says, but your body's naturally letting go of these hormones. So talk to that for me.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, there's a lot of practices that you can regulate your hormones. So my favorite one, of course, is meditation and breath work, pranayama.
Mm.
If you know the right practices to use to play with your hormones, you don't need any hormone replacement. And I did the breath work. For me, breath work and meditation were my saviors for going through menopause, and I still do it. So I know how to balance my pituitary gland. I know how to balance my pineal gland. Both those two feed our hormones. If
Hmm.
your pineal gland and your pituitary gland are balanced and nourished, your hormones are where they're supposed to be at that time of your life. And one thing I find really interesting is that our body is designed at this time to shed our hormones. As you said, we slowly start to release our hormones naturally. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So for us to feed the body back with hormones, I'm not sure how in sync that is with our clock. If we're supposed to start losing our estrogen, our progesterone, testosterone, but naturally, slowly it starts to release. But if we continue to feed and we don't release it, I'm not sure what happens to us later on. Like this is all new, right?
Yeah.
We all know hormone replacement therapy earlier on had a bad reputation, and we weren't using it. Now all of a sudden we've come back and we've said, it is good for us. We can use it. But innately, I'm just don't. And again, everybody's different. Every woman maybe has to sit and ask the universe if it's the right thing to do for her. For me, it's not the right thing because I know I can regulate my hormones with my breath work and my meditation. So why would I have to use a prescription medicine to do it? Even if it's
Mm.
bioidentical, it's still a prescription. So why
Yeah.
would I have to do something else to do it when I can do it with myself, right?
So
So and I think we might be the guinea pigs for later on to see, what, I have friends who are on hormone replacement therapy and also on human growth hormone, and which in Canada is not legal, but in the States it is. So I have my American friends who use it, and it's a patch you put it on, and it gives you a lot more energy. It regulates the hormones, puts everything back into balance. But it's almost like a false, like they're 70, and they don't feel like 70 and they don't look like 70, I guess, but they're still 70 and they're using this patch to help them anti-age, right? For anti-aging.
yeah.
They're not even using it, I guess, for health things. They're using it more on a cosmetic, almost like a false basis, because that's what society expects, is that they want to look younger, they want to have more energy and vitality, as opposed to doing the work to have the energy and vitality. They
Mhm.
use something that, again, that feeds them so that it balances hormones, helps that ojas, the life force, by giving them this human growth hormone. And all these things are fairly all new in our day and age. And who knows, in the next 30, 40, 50 years, as we finish our lives and then another generation comes on board, maybe it won't be the right thing to do because there's side effects. And usually I almost say I could say every prescription drug has a side effect. Every
Yeah.
prescription. So
Yeah.
you do HRT, you do
They'll
bioidentical
be
hormone,
right.
you do human growth hormones, there is side effects. Whereas if I do my pranayama, my meditation, my yoga, there's no side effects. And for me, works because it does. It does exactly the same as what those things would do, but without the side effects.
So I feel like I've been living, um, like I'm not gonna say 100% Ayurvedically. I like everyone else, I tip and I move, but I use my Ayurveda tools to bring me back into balance. And I haven't had my period for 2 years, and I feel okay. Like I don't feel like there's a necessity for me to go get a prescription for anything. So I guess in that way, I would say I'm using my tools. I'm using my tools to keep me in balance. And when I do notice something, I don't think that I've necessarily prescribed the imbalances that I'm feeling to menopause in particular. I'm like, oh, I'm out of balance. And I could be out of balance because I'm living in my parents' home this week. I could be out of balance because the season's changing outside. I could be out of balance because, I don't know, I stayed up too late last night, whatever it is. But
You
I'm
drank too much,
using
for example, which
yeah,
happens
I'm
this
using
time of
the
year.
tools to sort of bring me back in. Now, like you keep saying doing the work. So maybe is that sort of something that you have to consider? Because as we go into this stage of life, it is time when it's asking us to like this transition is asking us to, hey, slow down, start taking care, make sure you're taking care of yourself. What do you want? Who are you? What do you need? What's coming out for you? And if you're willing to sort of dig in and ask some of those questions, then Ayurveda is very supportive of that because it wants you to be in connection to that piece of you, that congruent mind, body, spirit connection in you. And I think sometimes what you're talking about, sort of the prescription, helps you be in society and not have to bother with that, nuisance of knowing yourself.
I love how you said that, Jill. The prescription avoids doing the work, but we all know sooner or later you have to stop the prescription. You can't be on HRT or bioidentical hormones or human growth hormones for a long extended period of life. You just can't. That's they're not even proven to go. I think maximum you're allowed to stay on them for most women is anywhere from 3 to 5 years. But once you come off, again, the universe will tell you the work has to be done. Sooner or later, you have to do the work in yourself. And it's a different timing for every woman when she chooses to do the work. But, having your dharma, your life's purpose, what you're meant to do on this earth at this time, having the knowledge of who am I, and you're so solid and so secure in who you are, so you're well grounded and you're rooted and you feel you're home, so you're home in your own self is so important. And that's what the menopause transition is. When we come out the other end and post menopause, those are the questions that usually come up for every woman, and it's a time when you have to sit and answer them. And in order to answer them, there's usually some work that has to be done in order to find those answers. And
Mm.
again, putting a band-aid on it, you can for a couple of years, but then as soon as the band-aid comes off, that's when the work for that person has to start. So some point in life, the work will have to be done. It's a matter of when the woman finds the time to do the work. And menopause actually is that gift. It's supposed to be that gift of time to be able to do the work, because you are supposed to be a little bit more selfish. You are supposed to take the time to give back to yourself, because again, the timing of menopause is that the woman's complete with her time with her kids. The raising the kids is done, hopefully, and then is the woman is solid in their relationship with the significant other, so that feels good. So then the woman has time to give back to themselves because they don't have the additional stress of raising kids or a new relationship, etc. But of course, society now is everything's changed, so I have a lot of friends who are much older and having younger kids. And
Mhm.
so kids are still living in the home, which again provides a totally different dynamic. And the woman doesn't find they have the time for themselves as much. So again, it ebbs and flows. But when I'm sure when the timing is right, every woman will come into a space where all of a sudden they say, okay, something has to change. I need to find a new way.
So menopause might be the catalyst
Mhm.
for that conversation in a woman, and perhaps it is because menopause does seem to be in our society a time when the body does get a little bit louder, a little, and I see it almost as like it's getting more demanding. It's
Mhm.
less patient with your excuses. It's less understanding of your sort of lack of self-care. It gets a little bit, it can be a little bit louder. And I think it's what you're saying. It's sort of saying, me, it's my turn. Come back and take care of me. You've had the years where you've taken care of all these children, or you've given to your career, or you've been in acts of service, like women are taught to be. And now it's time for you to come back.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well
Interesting.
said, Jill. That's exactly it.
Yeah, super interesting. It's amazing because it's maybe menopause is something that I mean we're it's just become like almost like a clickbait thing in our culture right now. And I'm seeing lots of women almost question whether or not the symptom they're having is because of this in quotes menopause. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that it's been a whisper for so long that now it's a scream. And now, because your body's screaming, we're just giving it the label menopause.
Yes, could be. And that's why, again, where Ayurveda is so unique is that not one woman is treated the same way.
Yeah.
Because we're all so individual and so unique, everyone needs to have a customized, personalized approach, even to menopause. It's not one size fits all. And unfortunately, the allopathic medicine, they don't have the time to dig deeper. Like, with your consultations and my consultations, we take the time to really know our clients, and we take the time to listen to what they're saying to us. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
We're so tuned in, and you're intuitive, I'm intuitive. Having that intuition where when the client says something, you're receiving a message that says, okay, maybe you should ask this question because maybe that client hasn't thought of this, and you just open a whole new set of doors, right? Because we take the time, and that's the gift of Ayurveda, is to be able to really take the time with the client so that you can coach or prescribe or whatever you want to say, but you take the time to really listen to what the body, the mind, and soul of the person is saying. The person might be thinking something else, but you're listening to something else, you're hearing something else, and you're helping to dig deeper into the root of what that person is.
Hmm. So like I love what you just said because it's so true, but it's also making me think of this idea that the physical solutions, Ayurveda or otherwise, around helping you sleep, eating when you should be eating, what you should be eating, find it like that's this idea of what you said, your first step is feeling grounded, bringing people into the patterns that help them feel grounded. There's a physical set of solutions. And like you said, there's herbs and tinctures and things like that. But there's also what you're talking about here is bringing yourself into relationship with the more than just the body. You're almost talking about bringing people into relationship with self, with spirit, with divine, with intuitive guidance.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
asking people to do, and that's when you say the work. Is that what you're referring to, or is it kind of all of
Yes.
it?
Well, I think it's a little bit of all of it, right? Because again, it depends on what the patient or the client believes. So if someone doesn't believe in spirits, God, guides, you're not going to even bring that up, right? So you're going to work at a completely different level than someone that is very already intuitive, right? And who knows how to channel in the guides and ask the questions and get the answers. Like there's two very different patients right there that you work with completely in a different tangent. So one, you might work with a person who doesn't believe in a higher being or spirits or guides or God. You may work more on the physical and the mental, so the body and the mind, because that's where the person's at. So to help them heal, they have a better understanding if you come in with healing attributes for healing the body, healing the mind. And then the other person who is very much more intuitive and has their own guides that they speak to and such. Well, you might work on a different level there and help them get the answers that they need to from their guides.
Yeah, I like that. And even if you're working with someone who hasn't, doesn't feel a connection to that spiritual side, when we bring in the physical practices, all of that helps clear ama, helps clear the toxins from the body, helps bring them into connection with self, and helps create a good um, capacity in their body to digest their experiences so that they are prepared and have the ojas, the capacity, should that extra element be something that they end up having to look at anyway. It's almost like you kind of that's the portal of entry that Ayurveda and yoga get to have is through the physical body, through the
Yes,
body and through those body practices. But the body practices, like we know from our days on the mat, hitting our yoga practice, it leads you to the
the
mind,
deeper
body,
work,
spirit. It
the
leads you
deeper
to
work.
that place of connection. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And again, as you said, it all starts with grounding. So
Yeah.
if your Muladhara, your root chakra, is not functioning, is not open enough, it's not optimal, might be spinning the wrong way, you might be feeling a loss of self. Well, it starts with, again, with who you are. You have to feel at home. And that feeling at home means you're feeling at home in your body, you're feeling at home in your mind, you're feeling at home in your soul level. Who you are. You feel, the confidence, the self-esteem, that security. All that is so, so important.
And it's
And that's
something that
all
often
Muladhara.
changes right around the time of menopause, especially
Yes.
if kind of old style you're talking about, you've become an empty nester, your kids are gone, there's a career transition, there's something going on that's changing your definition of self and causing you to be introspective about it again.
Exactly. I'll give you a great example that happened to myself. And this was a couple of years ago. I had my first and only car accident and I was hit from behind. And so I was stopped and the person, I guess, might be on their phone. But anyway, I was hit from behind. And it wasn't a big accident, but it was enough to unground me. And it was really interesting. And it was funny because I guess it was the way of the universe telling me, Sim, this is how it feels when you're ungrounded. Because I've always been a very grounded person. But for that car accident, it ungrounded me. And so all of a sudden, I had to do the work to make sure I was grounded. And it
Yeah.
kind of surprised me that how I was ungrounded. And it also brought me back to, okay, this is how some of your clients feel when they're ungrounded. So it gave me that sense of, okay, I understand on a deeper level now because I know what it feels like to be ungrounded. And I know how something simple or not, nothing complicated can unground you. So again, we just don't know sometimes we think of being ungrounded as when if we're going through a divorce, if we have a death in the family, if we're financial issues. Like there's so many levels of being ungrounded that you kind of have to think of. I always ground myself every day, and
Yeah.
even though I know I'm very grounded, I always do a grounding practice. But again, we're not taught that in daily life. We're not even in our a lot of times in yoga when we go on our mat, we do a flow practice and we don't even realize that we're not grounded, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just the simple things like the simple things of grounding. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing difficult. It doesn't even cost any money, right? It's free. We just have to take the time and do the work to make it
I
happen.
do think that that's one thing that Ayurveda, I mean, there definitely you can go down the road of herbs and tinctures and things like that, but mostly everything Ayurveda teaches you is just it's a tool in your toolbox that's always free, it's always accessible. You could take it everywhere with you because it's just a practice that you can do.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But the key word is you have to know what to do. So
Yes.
when I said, the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, I know how to balance them. I know how to regulate my hormones through that. But if you don't know how to do that, you have to seek your teacher. So I include that in my program. I have that in my course because it's so important that it's free. It's and it doesn't even take long. You can do it in 10 minutes,
Do you
right?
do a sneak peek of that one?
A sneak peek. Well, it's through meditation. It's through
Okay.
meditation and visualization, the two together.
So, just thinking about how you keep coming back to the idea of grounding, grounding, grounding. Ayurveda would say as we age, vata increases in our body. So the air and ether, we come into this air of each of ether stage of life. And what you're talking about is like it's your responsibility now to bring the earth and water, to bring the grounding into your life because it's not innately there anymore. When you were a child, it was innately there, and as you started out as an adult, that grounding is innately there. And then as we age, it's almost like this dissolves and dissipates a little bit and the air and ether increases.
And I
And
think we can all feel that because, as you know,
yes,
ether plays with our joints.
yeah,
As we get older, everything gets dry. All the whole body gets dry. What happens to our joints when they dry up? They become brittle, they become hard. They're not as supple and flexible. So we have to learn to lubricate the joints.
yeah,
Lubrication is kapha energy. And
yeah,
so bringing that earth energy up helps to lubricate our joints. And so
yeah,
when we lubricate, then we turn off that vata energy, we turn off that dryness. So we don't have the brittle, we don't have the stiffness, we don't have the pain that a lot of people suffer with as we get older is joint pain. So again, doing the exercises or the movements to lubricate joints is important, and it's something that we should do every day. But again, you have to know, like you said, it's the tools, right?
right. Yeah,
And
the tools.
it's free. It doesn't cost any money. You just
Yeah,
have to know what to do to make sure your joints are lubricated and that you do it every day.
yeah. So not only are we going into this like increase of vata in our physical bodies, but we live in a part of the world where we spend at least half of our year in a vata season.
Yes.
And we also live in a part of world due to our access to technology where the Vata is the way our society works. We don't live in sort of a ground in earth and water sort of um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say first world society, but yeah, first world. We're not an agrarian farming society anymore. I guess I'm up in northern Alberta. Maybe we are. But yeah, like this seems like what you're telling us is a prescription to go through menopause, but it's also a prescription to go through life and life, especially as we age, life when we chose to live in a northern climate, life when we chose to live in a first world country with lots of excess vata, like excess access to air and ether. This is just an essential, these are essential tools for life.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
most definitely. And I guess need to find the balance, right? So we know our environment plays a big part of who we are. So the foods that we eat, how they're harvested, how they're grown, how they're picked, etc. Also, all the energy that we have from the outside forces. Now, the 5G energy, the moon energy, the changing of the planets. Like it's a whole shift, right? It's not, and we
Yeah.
can't control that. We can't, but we can control ourselves of how we position ourselves as the as the universe shifts, right?
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother tangent to take, but it does affect us. And
Yeah.
men, women, children, doesn't matter who you are, but the environment plays a huge role on how we feel on all levels of body, mind, and soul. And again, the grounding is so important because you can easily get lost, and then you feel almost that your mind is too busy, so too much mind chatter, and then you feel that you're scattered. And I think we all know that this is the time that a lot of times we can feel we scattered, sorry, and we can feel excess mind chatter. So again, grounding, and bringing up that earth energy, as you said, is so important because and we don't have control of it. It's just the way the planet is happening, the changes from our Pluto to Aquarius to all the transitions that are happening outside of our own force. but it's
Yeah.
how we take that energy, what we do with that energy. It's also a time as well that it's naturally moving into the feminine age. So the feminine energy, which is beautiful if you're in your female essence. For somebody who's not, it can be very traumatizing because they feel like they're losing some of that masculine energy. And again, it's all about balance, yin and yang, finding the balance between male and female energies.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. Okay, I have another question. Can you tell me about your course? Can you tell me about, I want you to tell people about what your course is, and maybe both of them,
Okay.
and where to find you.
Okay, thank you. So one of my new programs, which I designed just about 3 months ago, is actually preparing mind, body, and soul for perimenopause. So this program is specifically catered for women from the 30s to about 45, giving you the tools to prepare for menopause so that you're not blindsided by symptoms. And so, as I said earlier, the better prepared we can be, the better the results. So this I found was this missing ingredient from medicine, that women don't even know how to prepare themselves. And this is where I want to make the change and say, you know what, you need to prepare yourself, that you aren't blindsided by symptoms, so you can find ease, peace, grace as you transition through menopause, and you can actually thrive through menopause.
Mhm.
So that is my first one. I love that. And I priced it at $44. So it's not
Ah,
expensive. I
sweet.
wanted every woman to be able to access it. It's not about making the money, it's about actually teaching and getting Ayurveda on the map as an alternative form of medicine, a holistic way of treating yourself. And
Excellent.
then my bigger program is called Biohacking Menopause through the lens of Ayurvedic medicine. And this one is for women who are in menopause and who are post menopause, and also for women who are on HRT, so hormone replacement therapy, because you do have to come off. And when you come off, as a doctor titrates you off your prescriptions, you will find that symptoms start to come up. So again, if you have the tools to know how to deal with the symptoms naturally, the better equipped you are. So
Yeah.
that program incorporates food as medicine, incorporates all the doshas, knowing what your doshas are. And then when you find what the imbalance is, which dosha it is, you have the tools to correct the balance. So when
Yeah.
I talked about the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, where our hormones are stored, these are our master organs for women. And if they're balanced and cleared and nourished, the body knows exactly. It has the hormones to deal with. It knows what to do. The symptoms don't come up because everything is in balance. You find a nice, easy way to go through menopause. So I have meditation, I have yoga in there, I have yoga nidra as well. And then I have good old beautiful forest bathing, getting out in nature, walking bare feet in the sand, in the grass, in the woods, just because, again, that's all with grounding, right?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. I feel like we're so in line. I have a small course called Know You to Heal You, which is basically like, I'm going to teach you how to listen to the symptoms and then give you this toolbox to respond. And then the year of you is taking the Ayurveda habits and learning them through the seasons so that by the end of the year, you really have a sense of how you might actually use this tool in January compared to July.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think
Yeah.
also too, and in your course and my course, it's proactive.
Yeah.
So you want to prevent things from happening. You
Yeah.
want to listen to the whispers so that the body doesn't have to scream. And when you have all the tools that are preventative, you know that when Vata season comes around, well, you have to ground, you have to eat certain foods to help you ground so that
Yeah.
you don't react to being anxious, nervous, excess worry, etc. You're preventative with yourself, which is huge. That's all preventative medicine is. That's what Ayurveda is. It's a preventative medicine. It prevents from the symptoms or the diseases to arise.
Preventative, proactive, personalized, and like you keep saying, it's participatory. There's a sense of responsibility here that can't be outsourced. And there's a piece of that that I'm coming to honor more and more. There's a saying that Deepak Chopra says that modern medicine knows but 10% of what the body knows innately. And I love that saying. I love the fact that I want to learn to trust the 90% that my body understands and gives me little hints of through its little symptoms and how it talks to me,
Right.
rather than going out and just putting all my faith in the 10%. If I need that 10%, I'll go get it. And I know it's there and thank you. And I'm glad it's there. But there's 90%. I mean, if that, I'm sure his quote is a little tongue in cheek, but maybe not.
No. So it's funny because I did study with Deepak Chopra
Okay.
when I first started. I was lucky enough to be in California and study with him and David Simon, his partner. Both of them were inspirational for me. But he always said, we have to be our own best doctors, and it's
Yeah.
even more important now because of the state of our medical system here in Canada. You can't count on a 10-minute visit with a doctor to be able to, for him to or her to know what's happening in your body, mind or soul. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work. But you do have all the answers. And because you have the answers, you can help the doctor actually come up with a solution because you know what's happening in your body. But
Yeah.
if there's a disconnect between mind and body, the first step is to make sure the connection between mind and body is super strong and they both talk to each other. That's
So
the
when you
first
use
step.
the word grounded, really it is also a metaphor for connected.
Yes.
Yeah. And the tools
Yeah.
that you teach people to be grounded, which is kind of a nice little buzzword that we use in our society to mean sort of calm and stable and connect, like, in balance. It also means connected to um, intuitive wisdom, universal wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as in the very beginning, when we started, the universe always talks to you.
Yeah.
But if you're always going and doing, you don't have the time to listen. The only time you can listen to the universe is when you're in quiet or you're in stillness.
Mhm.
That's when you hear.
And here now, all of a sudden, we're starting to invoke the eight limbs of yoga. When you go past the asana and the pranayama, you go into a single pointed focus and withdrawal of the senses and concentration, meditation. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
These are
beautiful.
beautiful
Yeah.
tools. They're beautiful tools.
And
Oh,
they're all free tools. That's the
yeah.
beautiful.
All free tools.
All
Yeah.
free. You don't have to pay thousands and thousands. I have friends, as I said, in the US who are using the human growth hormone patch. Oh my God, I don't, it's $1,000 a month. you know,
Wow.
and and you just think, well, hang on a second, I can show you meditation to do that, which is free. But again, you have to do the work. It's not something you
Well,
just sit on
and I
and
feel like
go.
this is where your perimenopause course kind of comes in, or like the intro work is because I think there's also work that you need to do to learn to trust that. You have to learn to trust the meditation that can do that. I have a meditation that can connect you to your pineal gland. You have to learn that that is as powerful. You have to trust and believe that that is as powerful as any drug that you can get. And I think that's where some of the training comes in, is because for so long this has been dismissed. Anything has been dismissed, vilified, denied as powerful, obstructed. So, like, there is a piece of the work, and part of that work is you actually practicing it enough so that you can have the embodied trust, like oh, I get it, I see it, I feel it, to know that it's doing the same as what that drug does.
Exactly. Well, and Jill, you spoke about Deepak Chopra. It's his is all it's meditation and breath work. That's all
Yeah.
he does. He doesn't give
Mhm.
you a prescription. And he's
No.
a he's a medical doctor, but he does not give you a prescription. He
Yeah.
makes you do the work of meditation and breath work, and you heal yourself with doing the work,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
meditate, and that's how I learned. When, all my teachers were all about meditation and breath work. The asanas come in after, but it's the meditation and the breath work that can change the cellular level of a human being. So if you have cancer in your body, well, you can do breath work. And again, depends on what stage, of course, right? But
Yeah.
if you have a dormant because of family genes, that there's something in the body that's dormant, you can do meditation and breath work to eliminate the dormancy. But
Yeah.
again, you have to do the work. I can't do it for you. It's that old saying, as in all of medicine, you can't heal someone that doesn't want to heal themselves.
Yeah.
You
You can
can't
lead
help
the
someone
horse
do
to
the work
water.
if they don't want to
Yeah.
do the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always tell people that. I said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but I'll be the water. I'm here when everyone I got the water and you just and come and I'll
Yeah.
meditate. I'll do yoga. I'll do yoga therapy. I will
I'll
yeah.
show you which meditation to use for that particular thing. Yeah, you have the container. You built that safe space and knowledge, and you can hold the space for that person, but that person has to want to come to you and want to do the work.
Oh, Simmy. Okay. I don't know what part two of this conversation is going to be, but we'll have to have a part two at some point.
Sounds good. I'd love to. I'd love this conversation because I love how you and I both think and how we work. And you know what?
Okay.
We want to change we want to change the person's life for the better. You want to find optimal health. You want to find optimal being. And that's the goal of what the work you and I both do.
And in a world where it's becoming more and more obvious that the external answers aren't the, beautiful catalyst to change that we need, that the answers are in us. I think that I don't know if it's more important than it's ever been, but it feels more important than it's ever been. Yeah.
I also think the universe is telling people they need to do the work.
Yeah.
A quick
We are.
fix or
Takes,
band-aid isn't.
we need to stop that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Simi, thank you so much. Everyone can find Simi's information down in the podcast description and notes and all her contact information to the courses that she does. And she's in lovely Canmore, Alberta. So thanks
Thank
for
you, Jill.
visiting
Thank you
with
so much.
me.
Thank you, all the listeners as well. Have a
See
wonderful
you.
day. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Yay, I stopped the recording.
Perfect.
Did
That
I?
was wonderful, Jill. Thank you.